I'm Alex Karlins. I'm an author. I'm a writer who is a celebrity, who is a singer and musician, and also an actor, as you see here. I currently have a book that I've written that is a historic novel, a historic military novel, actually, that is fiction, but it's based on a true story, and each chapter is a separate story that goes into SOCOM, United States Special Operations Command, and the book is called United States Special Operations Command, Their Stories. And it covers different wars such as the Vietnam War, Korea, the Persian Gulf War, Somalia, the War on Terror, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, and it is a pretty accurate description of what went on in these wars, but through a fictional account and context due to me not being allowed to describe actual situations that went on in the military because they're classified. They're top secret, basically. They're accounts that cannot be discussed, as no one is allowed to admit to being a Navy SEAL in Special Forces, in these Special Forces, being a U.S. Army Ranger, an Airborne Ranger, or a Green Beret. They're not allowed to admit being in Special Ops in the Marine Corps or in the Marines. They're not allowed to admit being in a classified unit in the Air Force. There's a lot of different units in SOCOM, U.S. Special Operations Command. And these units are elite groups in the military that could be in the Navy, the Army, the Marines, or the Air Force. And by Marines, I mean the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps is the Marines to me because they were called the Marines when I was younger. So I call them the Marines, not the Marine Corps. And the Marines are a specialized group of people that they have several different units that are elite units in the Marines that are classified groups that complete and conduct classified operations all over the world and fight battles that pertain to wars that go on outside of the country, abroad, and they possess the ability to retaliate and to fight a large amount of different terrorists in the event of counterterrorism. And that's who the Navy SEALs are as well, and that's who the Special Forces are. The Navy SEALs take on different operations and took on different operations in the War on Terror in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And the Navy SEALs fought many battles in the War on Terror, as well as in Vietnam and in Korea. And the Special Forces, who are the Green Berets, as well as the U.S. Army Rangers and the Airborne Rangers, they fought many battles in Vietnam, Korea, and in the Persian Gulf War, in Somalia, as well as the war on terror in Afghanistan and in Iraq. The UN inspectors went into Iran to see if they had nuclear weapons, to see if they had any serious threat to the United States of America, and didn't determine whether they had weapons of mass destruction or not. And they didn't find any weapons of mass destruction that we know of. So they left Iran alone and didn't fight Iran. However, Iraq was led by Saddam Hussein, who was said to be a dictator that was against the United States, who was bad to his own country as well as other countries. He seemed to be raping and ravaging the land that he lived in and terrorizing his own people, as well as leading rape squads in his own country of the military in his own country, raping women and children in his country and brutalizing men and women and children physically and forcefully, beating them and killing his own people in his own country. So Saddam Hussein was beheaded by the United States of America and killed by U.S. forces who hunted him down and committed a coup, which was an assassination on Saddam Hussein. And they did this to Osama bin Laden as well. They just didn't behead him. They locked him up in a coffin and sent him to sea, threw him in the ocean. And they conducted this activity on Osama bin Laden after he attacked the United States of America by sending jets packed with explosives in their cabs into the Twin Towers. One jet hit the first Twin Tower and blew it up and tumbled it to the ground. And then the next jet hit the second Twin Tower and crumbled it to the ground. And we were left with ground zero, which was what they called the site after the Twin Towers had been crumbled to the ground. It was a tragedy that left many people dead in New York City, in Manhattan. And Manhattan was my place of birth. It was where I was born, in New York City at Lenox Hill Hospital. And I was important to be born in Manhattan, and was important to be born into the family that I was born in, as my grandfather was the head of the housing authority in New York City, and my father was in the Coast Guard at one time. And it was a good existence to know that I was important to New York City and Manhattan. And it was a good existence to be important in Virginia, where we moved to. And I became a resident of Virginia with my family. And we lived in Virginia for quite some time. And I grew up in Virginia, basically. We didn't live in New York for that much time. And we lived in different places in New York, like Queens and Ithaca and Brooklyn. And we lived in Virginia for most of my life. And that was something that occurred because my dad found work in Virginia. He found a job in Virginia owning a health food store in Virginia because he was into health food and was into spirituality in a big way. He was someone who studied religion and taught me about the teachings of Jesus Christ and taught me about being a good person to other people. And although I am into the military and into government agencies such as the CIA, the FBI, and the police, and the Coast Guard, I don't commit acts of terror, of course, and don't even commit acts of violence that would kill people or murder people or rape people or molest anyone, including children. I don't commit these acts because I'm completely legal in the United States of America and in the world. And I happen to be a world leader that is an ambassador, and I conduct operations all over the United States as well as in other countries as I work for Trump at times, being the commander-in-chief of the military. And currently, I am the commander-in-chief of the military, and I am an ambassador as well. And I'm conducting operations within the country right now as an ambassador, and we're not using the military abroad because we're not involved in war with any other country right now. And that's a great thing, to be at peace with other countries all over the world and to not have to attack these countries or any countries. And we want to make allies with all countries if possible. The United States would like to be allies with every country in the world if possible. And it's to the betterment of society in the United States and to the well-being of people all over the world that we conduct peace with other countries as much as possible, as much as we possibly can. And it's to the misfortune, and it's very unfortunate when we have to go to war with another country and innocent lives get taken into desperate attempts at devastation, and they experience tragedies, and that's very unfortunate, like I was saying, as I reiterate. And it's, really devastating thing and an atrocity to go to war with any country, or to even go to war within the United States with the CIA, the FBI, or the police, which I use in the United States of America. And when we have a situation, which I'm not always the commander-in-chief of the military, I just am at certain times. When I'm the commander-in-chief of the military, I don't go to war with other countries most of the time because we don't have to, because we're not threatened by other countries. And we don't have anything going on right now, or we're being threatened by another country, so we're not going to war with any other country. And when we have threats from other countries, I have to assess whether it's a real threat and whether it's actually the country I think it is that's threatening us. And if it's not the same country that they're saying they are, then we don't go to war with that country. We just realize that we investigate and realize that it's not the country they said they were, and we don't go to war with them. So realize that we're not going to go to war with a country that's not guilty of conducting terrorist activity in the United States of America. So we do object to terrorist activity in the United States of America majorly, but we wouldn't put a country in danger if they weren't terrorists in our country.